In the first part of this video, we were discussing that there were several kinds of modes of labor utilization before employment, which is today's mode of labor utilization. And we were talking about slavery, and after that came serfdom, and after that came employment. And we were talking about employment not being compatible with capitalism. And the prediction that one company of risk research made, that if we do not correct some incompatibility in today's system, this system will not survive a terrorist attack, the latest at 2050. So we have to correct it in order to avoid the annihilation actually of Western civilization. I cannot say that this incompatibility is the one about which I'm going to talk, but I just don't see another one, and this one looks to me extremely serious, and in my opinion it's likely that this is incompatibility that we'll have to fix. In this part of the video, I want to show you a graphical scheme of the existing system, employment, mode of labor utilization, and the next, compatible with capitalism, mode of labor utilization, which I think it would be nice to call entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization. So I'll show you the difference graphically, and after that I'll show you the difference in a formula which can be used directly for implementing this system. So let's go to the piece of paper and show how it looks. Every enterprise needs two parts of expenses. One expense is in means of production. So let's put this as a square, not square, it's a rectangle. This rectangle is means of production. Means of production is raw materials and all kind of other means of production, which include rent and electricity and telephone and maintenance of the building by outside personnel, advertising, and a few other things. Any expense which excludes labor. Now, means of production by themselves naturally do not produce profit. So if the employer made the expense a monthly expense, a weekly expense, a quarterly expense on means of production, this doesn't create any profit for him. In order for this means of production to generate profit, he needs to pay wages. Now, the size of wages to means of production, one employer told me, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it doesn't matter that much, it's a ballpark figure between 13 and 80%. So let's just say that this is the expenses on means of production, on labor. This is the expense on wages, work, labor. And these workers, for the money they are paid, they're going to operate the means of production, raw materials and all the rest. And if they are failing, they will create a return which is less than expense. Okay? If they are successful, they make a profit. So let's put the profit above this rectangle. This is profit created by the workforce that operates the means of production. Now, what motivates these workers to generate this profit? Okay? The profit, as you can see, goes entirely to the employer. That means there is no incentive for the worker to increase this profit. Now, some profit the employee must generate, because if the employer notices that the employee does not generate any profit, he will fire him. If all the workers will join together and not create any profit at all, the enterprise will go bankrupt and the workers will lose their jobs. This is something they do not want. So, in order to keep the enterprise afloat in the market and keep their jobs intact, the workers have to create some profit. So they do create some profit, and this profit goes to the employer. Now, this system, employment system, we can, okay, but the formula we'll talk later. So, in order for the worker to create the strongest possible incentive to generate profit, what do you think the employer has to do? What I am proposing is to put a line here and keep it holy, not to move it. What this line means is let the worker generate a profit on his labor for himself and keep this profit. The employer will generate profit on his means of production and keep this profit to himself. So, first of all, is justice, according to capitalism. Capitalism says that every successful investor of money or labor is entitled to the profit on his investment of labor. Before, in the employment mode of labor utilization, the employer was harvesting the profit on his means of production and on the labor of his employees. With the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, the next one, the employer is making profit on his means of production, and the workers are making a profit on their labor. This generates an incentive, in my opinion, the strongest incentive, for the worker, the whole workforce as a team, to try this profit to maximize as far as they can. So this way, the profit on labor will go up and will keep going up with the knowledge and of the workforce and with the equipment and so on. But this picture never stays like this. The profit line is always the same line, parallel. So when the workers will increase the means of production, the profit on their labor, automatically they will also increase the profit on means of production. and the increase of the profit on means of production will be times larger than the former profit on the whole, on labor and means of production. So this square will keep on growing and it will be larger and larger, and it will exceed this profit which was before. This is the essence of the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization. It is compatible with capitalism and is presented by this simple scheme. Now this scheme shows the essence of the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization and the difference between the employment and the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, but it doesn't show the actual number, the actual coefficient to multiply the wages in order to this picture to take place in reality. So for that, we'll develop a formula. Let's look at the enterprise, any enterprise, as a pipe. Yeah? A pipe. On the entrance of the pipe, you see raw materials coming in, raw materials, and the outside of out of the pipe comes sales. Okay? Now, if we subtract from sales the raw materials, we'll get what the market pays to the enterprise for the service. Okay? So this little formula actually makes the future formula, which we are going to see in a moment, makes it universal. Because every enterprise is paid for the service. Now, depending on what is actually the raw materials, it can be different. Let's say the raw materials, let's say the enterprise is a store. Then the raw materials is actually all the merchandise that the store owner is buying from suppliers and sells. Yeah? If it is some office, lawyer's office or accountant's office or engineering office, any office that does some calculations or documents, the raw materials that the client is receiving is actually paper and ink which is on this paper. This is the raw materials for an office. And again, the market pays for the service. It can be a mine. If this is a mine, the raw materials is actually the ore that is in the ground, and the owner of the mine is paying to the owner of the property that will allow him to extract the ore from the mine. And this is paid either to a private owner of the property or to the government that owns the property, but this is the raw materials of a mine. So as you see, this little formula makes this whole picture universal. Yeah. Now, in order that the raw materials will be transferred to sales, you have to make two little holes in this pipe and enter into this pipe the price of labor, wages, and means of production. So, in summary, any enterprise can be seen as a pipe. On the entrance of this pipe come raw materials. On the outside, out of the pipe comes sales, and the transfer from raw materials to sales is done by labor that operates the means of production, and for both the owner has to pay. So we may look the formula of employment. Yeah. On one side, the employer is getting money from the public for the service, and this is an income, and in order to create that income, he has to pay for labor and for means of production. This ratio at the break-even point is equal to 1, and if it's not a break-even point, there is some gain, and if this gain is above 1, it is a profitable situation, and if it is below 1, it is a losing situation. Okay? Now this is actually the formula for employment, and every enterprise today, as it uses employment as a mode of labor utilization, is using this formula, in fact, to show how much gain or loss this enterprise makes. Now, this formula corresponds to the previous picture which I wrote to begin with, okay, without this addition. This is the picture which is described by this formula. Okay, this is the picture. Okay, and this is the formula that describes this picture. Now, we want to go to the next mode of labor utilization, which is entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization. And the difference in the formula is only this. You have to multiply W, the wages, by the same number that is the gain. That means the owner of the enterprise will make just as much the same rate of profit as every worker will make on his labor. Here I don't want to make it too complicated. I assume that all the workers accept the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization. That may not happen at the beginning, and I'm sure it will not happen right away, because it's a voluntary system. In order to take part in this formula, in the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, the owner of the enterprise has to offer the employees an option. I call it A option, an option to become responsible for corporate losses. That means if the company loses money, let's say 10% in a certain quarter, the workers have to return to the company 10% of their wages. And because of that, not all the workers will sign it right away, because they will not understand one thing. And what they should understand, and will understand at least after a quarter or two, that if the company was profitable, at least a little bit profitable, before this arrangement, it definitely will be more profitable after that, because there will be no sabotage. Every worker will try to do his best. They will teach each other and try to learn from each other in order to maximize the profitability on their labor. And accordingly, without any supervisions, they will multiply the profit of the entire enterprise. So eventually, when all the workers will join the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, this will be the formula for calculation of their profit. Now, this formula is a quadratic equation, and we have to solve it in order to actually know how to calculate, because without it, you cannot calculate without finding the solution to this formula. So let's take another page and calculate. So we'll take the formula G, okay, G gain equals to payment for service divided by GW plus C. Okay. So let's solve this quadratic equation. As you may remember from school, the quadratic equation has looks like that: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Yeah. So this is just a reminder how the quadratic equation looks, and we have to make this formula look like that. So we'll multiply both sides by this amount. Yeah. Multiply by this amount. We'll have G squared W, okay, plus CG. This goes to this side. Now S will go to this side. It will become minus S equals 0. So now we see that we received actually a classic quadratic equation, because A is equal W, B is equal C, and C is equal minus S. Okay? And now we know the solution of the quadratic equation. The G equals, okay, 2W minus C plus minus square root C squared minus 4 times WS, but S has a minus, so it makes this a plus. So here we close the square, and this is the formula for two roots, actually root 1 and root 2, but we know that one of the roots is not useful to us because it's a minus situation, minus and minus, and I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. It does make sense, probably for a research institution that is very enthusiastic and losing a lot of money in order to one day make some money. But we are not interested in this part. We're interested only in the one which has a plus. So we'll choose one of the two roots. We'll choose this root, not 1 and 2, just 1. And we'll, because this is only plus, minus doesn't exist, we'll make it something like this, plus 4WS, close the square root, and minus C from here, okay, and divided by 2W. Now, as you see, we don't have G on both sides, just like here. We have it on one side, and this is exactly the formula for entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization that we can use in order to know to multiply the wages of the workers. Besides, okay, I made this formula for the case when every worker joins the system and becomes a worker entrepreneur. But if not all the workers join, we can before all the workers join, we can use a formula like this: G equals to the same thing here, but some workers are inside the system and some workers are outside the system, plus C. Okay? So accordingly, we can solve this problem, this equation. This is also obviously a quadratic equation, and we can use it and solve it, and we'll come to a similar solution. I don't want to make it too complicated, but it's not a problem. It's just purely a high school mathematical problem of the solution of a quadratic equation. That's about what I wanted to say. You can compare. We can again come back and compare this formula of the entrepreneurial mode of utilization with the previous formula of employment, and when we compare them, we see what happens. Here, sorry. This, okay. In the employment, all the gain goes to the employer. With the entrepreneurial mode of utilization, the gain goes at the same rate to the employer and to the workers. Their wages are multiplied by this amount, and I mean only the wages of those workers that take part in the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, and those that didn't yet sign up the A option to join the entrepreneurial mode of labor utilization, they stay out of it and they continue being employees just like before. And the ones who join the system are already not employees because they are not exploited. They are workers, entrepreneurs. They invest their labor and receive a profit on their labor. But this profit is not a profit-sharing profit that comes from agreement between the management and the workers. It's a direct market profit just of the same kind that the employer is getting from the market for his means of production. Okay? Employer is getting a profit on his. The employer. Oh, okay. The employer is getting a profit, making a profit. The employer is making a profit on his means of production, yeah, and the worker is making a profit on his labor. Both at the same rate. Both work in parallel. They want to help each other. For a change, the worker, instead of hating their employer, they actually respect him very deeply because he doesn't exploit them anymore. And they try to help him to make more profit. And he's trying that they will be able to enable them to make more profit by giving him the proper equipment, by arranging the whole company to be as efficient as possible. In this arrangement, you don't need many foremen. Like today, a foreman has under him 8, 9, probably up to 10 and no more workers because he cannot manage them. They don't want to actually invest too much labor. With the new system, every worker wants to invest as much labor as possible and helping each other and to the employer to invest as much as possible in the most efficient way. And for that purpose, and in this situation, the management structure becomes flat because the number of intermediate bosses collapses. Everybody wants to do his best, and every peer is trying that his other peer will do his best and helps him to do so. And everybody who doesn't know will learn from one who knows. It's a tremendous saving. Not only, this is not a system to make workers to work harder, not at all. They will be happy to work. They come to work like to a picnic because they want to come. It's a pleasant place to be at such a workplace because everybody is trying to help each other to be more efficient and learning from each other and teaching each other. And everybody is trying to help the management and the bosses in particular to make more profit. And obviously the boss is trying that to oblige and to help his worker to create more profit, because by working better, smarter, and making more profit on their labor, they generate a profit for him on his means of production. So I think this is a very important solution, and I'm happy to propagate it. You can look up my my website, which is profitonjob.com. Profitonjob.com is one word. I just made it separate in order to show that this is different words. But actually, profitonjob is one word, .com. www.profitonjob.com. If you go to this website, it will also direct you to my book, which is Smiling for Profit. Smiling for Profit, and it is available on Amazon.com. Okay? Thank you for your patience. Bye.